Um,
Good morning, everyone. We are really excited to be up here today and talk to you about this very incredible conference. But before we get started, we both thought that it will be fun if we start with a little bit of an exercise to get everyone involved. So please, stand up if this is your first RoboCon. Amazing. So if this is your first time here, you picked a great place to start. You see, today you are not only attending a conference, you are joining a community. Welcome to RoboCon. You may sit down.
Yeah, it's not over the year. Now we want you to stand up if you have been here before. Yeah, great to see so many returning faces. Thank you.
Now, don't sit down just yet. So, stay standing if you ever left a conference inspired to give back to the community. Amazing. That feeling, I like to call it the RoboCon effect. It's that spark, that drive and motivation to contribute and make an impact.
Okay, and now stay standing if you already have contributed in some way. So look around. Almost everyone feels inspired, but far fewer take the step to contribute. And this talk is about closing this gap and the power of contributing. So,
let me sit down.
Yeah,
Thank
please
you.
sit down. And Gabi, how did you experience the RoboCon effect?
The first time I experienced the RoboCon effect was the very first time I was here. It was 2 years ago, and before attending the conference, I remember Christoph telling me all about it. And to be honest, at the first time, I couldn't believe a conference could be that great. You see, I was just so excited to be here, learn more about the framework, and take it all in. But what I did not realize at the time was this conference was going to do a lot more than teach me more about framework. It lit a spark. Very quickly, I realized RoboCon is not just about tools or technology. It's about people, about you. The community is open, welcoming, approachable. I felt like I could talk to anyone, no matter if it was their first time there or they were an expert visiting RoboCon every year. And what stood out to me the most was just how natural learning felt. You see? You learn through conversations, shared excitement, and of course, through the talks that not only were inspiring and insightful, but honestly fun to watch. And I was just so struck by how kind everyone was and how supportive. It showed me that you don't need years of experience to belong to the community. So I left the conference full of ideas and knowledge, and I also left with something else. This small, quiet hope that maybe someday I will be able to give back to the community that had given me so much. But I wasn't sure if I was good enough to do so, or how I could start. But enough about me. What was your story, Christoph? How was the first time you experienced the RoboCon?
Yeah, I still remember my first RoboCon very well. So it was, I think, 2019, and I came mainly here to learn more about robot framework. But what really stayed with me was the community. So it felt different from any other conference I had been before or after that. People shared ideas openly. That openness made it feel welcoming. And even for someone who didn't consider themselves an expert these days, yeah, it felt really great and welcoming. So back then, the community day took part the day after the conference, and I joined a group around ISMO to work on the white library, and it was collaborative, hands-on, and a lot of fun. So there was no pressure, just people working together and learning from each other. And yeah, the white libraries or the white framework is deprecated today, but what mattered was the feeling, so I can be part of this community. When I got back home, I really wanted to continue contributing, but that's where the doubt started. And I thought, I'm not good enough as a programmer, I don't know robot framework well enough, and others know so much more than I do. And slowly, that excitement turned into hesitation, not because I'm not interested in contributing, but because I don't feel good enough. And Gabi, your story took the next step.
It did. You see, I enjoyed the first conference so much that I wish to come back. And last year, I got the exciting opportunity to talk about one of my projects and share my knowledge around the Appium library. So I returned as a speaker. And this felt like a small way to give something back. And little did I know at that time that once again I was going to experience the RoboCon effect. Many of you know André. If not, maybe you've used the database library. And I bet some of you are wondering, okay, but what does this have to do with your story? Well, last year, at the after party, André sat down next to me. And you see, during that evening, I was inspired and I had a question in my mind I just couldn't let go of. Yet, I almost didn't ask. To be honest, I felt nervous. So I took a breath in, turned to him, and simply said, how much Python experience do you actually need to become a library contributor? His answer did surprise me, but only for a short moment. After that, it made sense. He did not tell me the secret recipe of becoming a library contributor. There's no such thing. He told me that you can start by just picking a library and starting. You start small, and you learn by doing. He was so nice, and we continued talking about that further on, and told me that if I wished to, I could contribute to the database library. Thank you. Unfortunately, at that time, I declined because I had no experience with it, and I felt a little bit anxious again to start with something I hadn't used before. But now don't let me discourage you. If you do wish to start with something completely new, do that, and I am sure that you will learn so much in very little time. But for me, I think back then the Appium library was still in the back of my head. And Andre actually also encouraged me to do that since I have talked about the Appium library a day before. Because at that time, I did work a lot with it. So even though the next day was a Saturday, I thought I'd check this out because I never really looked how the library was constructed or at the Python files. So I took a few minutes and I tried to understand what keywords there were and how everything was built. I tried to understand the structure. And to be honest, if you try to understand it in 5 to 10 minutes, you've got no chance. You need to take your time to do that. So I looked at the issues. And I tried to think if there was anything I could start working on. To be honest, I felt overwhelmed. Suddenly, all my confidence was gone. I thought that I'm not good enough to contribute. I don't have enough knowledge. Who am I kidding? I need more experience. And you see, it would have been just so easy to simply close the tab, stamp this as too advanced, and move on, forget all about it. But something in the back of my mind was whispering, come on, Gabi, just give it a shot. You can do that. The very next week, I came back to work, and that's when I talked to Christoph about the conference, about the RoboCon effect, the conversations I've had, and you had also thought about contributing to the Appium library before, didn't you?
Yeah, so I already had a look into the Appium library because we are using it, and yeah, I cared about it, and I went through the repository to understand how it was structured. And yeah, while doing that, I noticed that there are many open pull requests and issues, and it felt like development had slowed down, and I was not sure how exactly the library was maintained anymore at that point. So we did some fixes in our fork, but we're not confident enough to open a pull request, just not because I did not want to contribute, but because I did not know what the reasonable way or responsible responsible next step would be to contribute. And when Gabi later told me about the experience at the RoboCon and about that conversation around just starting small, it gave me a different perspective. So I went back to the repository and noticed something very important. Added the last release of the Appium library. So instead of overthinking the whole thing, we did the smallest possible step. So we reached out to him on Slack and told him about we want to contribute to the Appium library. We did some fixes, and I want to bring it to a new version to make it compatible again and useful for the community. And this conversation was the start of building Appium Library 3.0, and we brought it back to life. And version 3.0 was released then, and we started maintaining the library. So, but it didn't stop there. The development is going on, and even more importantly is that the project is moving forward. We are not the only contributors anymore, so others joined us, and work is going on. And at this point, if you're still wondering why you should contribute, we've got 3 reasons for you. So first of all, when you contribute, you just start growing differently than you're just consuming things. You learn faster because you work with real world code. Also, you start to understand how things are actually built, not just how they are used. And instead of guessing, you get real feedback from the community and who are caring about the same things like you do. Also, you become more confident by contributing, not before. Your questions turn into improvements. You stop feeling like an outsider. You realize that others are struggling with the same things like you do. And there's that moment when you see your name in an official repository. So for the first time, that feeling stays with you. And finally, contributing is not about you. You give something back to tools you rely on every day. You improve things that you wished had been before when you started to use a library, for example. You realized that you did not just contribute code. You became part of something bigger, part of the community.
And that's exactly it. You see, contribution starts with you, but it only works because all of us working together. Open source isn't just about individual fixes or features. It's about what we create collectively, the ideas we share, and the impact we make together. You see, when we talk about contributing, we focus so much on this technical side. We talk a lot about repositories. We talk a lot about issues, pull requests, bugs, and all those things. But none of this would work without a community. Community, it's what reviews your code. Community asks and answers the questions. Community catches the edge cases and helps you level up along the way. It's people from the community that answer the same questions even for the 20th time, even though it was answered before. It's the testers reporting the bugs that no one else noticed. It's the ones who take their time to explain to you why something works and how it does, not only that it works or it doesn't. This is what makes open source real. It's the people behind the code. And that is the heart of open source, and what I'm proud to say that I've seen in this wonderful robot framework community. One talk from my first RoboCon is about that. It proves it. And it stayed with me for the very first moment. Maybe you recognize the gnome. Or maybe you've been helped by Kelby's time before. He's also here today, so you might get a chance to talk to him. He said in the community talk that he wakes up every morning, he opens up Slack, and he's like, I look if someone has a problem, and I see if I can help. That moved me. It showed me that contribution can be as simple as caring, taking the time to help, even though it isn't required. That is again the heart of open source. It's the shared ownership, shared learning, and the shared responsibility. It's not just about code anymore. It's people who make this community what it is.
Exactly. So when community works like this, when people care about to help and share their knowledge, the impact grows. One fix becomes a start. One test prevents 1,000 regressions. One contributor makes the project better for everyone. And the best part of it is you don't need permission to be part of this heart. So you don't know, you don't have to be, you don't wait for someone to tell you you're allowed to contribute. You just need to show up. So you maybe also hear this at the unconference, that the best people are not necessarily the skilled ones, but they are the ones who show up, who want to join and do something. If you show up, your desire to contribute, you're already the right person to do so. Yeah, when we talk about contribution, it often sounds like something big. So like you need to build a new feature, a new library, or being an expert first. But most contribution starts really small at the first moment. And for example, with helping each other. So help a colleague to learn robot framework. Is it on or offline? Or, for example, with improving the documentation, improving a sentence there to make it more understandable, or maybe also fix a broken test. Write some guideline for you or others to understand something better. Of course, test new features and give feedback to the developers. Or the easiest way, just join Slack and be part of the online community there. Also, you can help to localize content to make Robot Framework accessible to more people around the world. Or just fix a typo in a keyword documentation or README file. You don't need to write code reviewing code already makes a huge difference. These are small actions that might feel insignificant, but they are the building blocks of everything you see here.
And you see, there's so much you can do. Back then, when I thought about contributing, I had thought that you need to be an expert, you need to start with something big, but I mean, you can just see it's a simple action. We both experienced the RoboCon effect, and we convinced ourselves that we aren't good enough. Looking back, I realized that this wasn't a lack of ability, but it was the imposter syndrome in disguise. And I'm sure that we aren't the only ones who felt like that. But you see, sometimes contribution starts with courage. Courage to ask the question, how much knowledge do you need to become a contributor? The moment we dare to get involved, everything changed. A leap of courage is often the very first real contribution. Because of that, we've got a challenge for you. So please use these 2 conference days to dare. Dare to ask questions. Dare to step out of your comfort zone. And dare to contribute in ways you might never have thought before. Whether this means sharing an idea, collaborating on a project, or simply going up to someone you admire, dare to take that first step. Because you see, it only takes a tiny bit of courage to make a difference. And your voice matters because each one of us brings something to this community. We are the ones that keep the community and the ecosystem alive. And you never know where it might lead. Next year, it might be you up here talking about how you experienced the RoboCon effect. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriella and Christoph. My name is Antti Akonniemi. I'll be the host for the event. But now, any questions from the audience to Gabriella and Christoph? I can't see anything, but we have mics here, so raise your hand if you want to ask a question there. Money.
Hey, thank you. Great talk. Question, how did you feel before finally publishing your release, or when you published it for the first time? What were the emotions you were going through? Because I remember my emotions. I would like to hear what was your feeling when you did that.
Incredibly scary and exciting at the same time.
Yeah, very nervous. So yeah, of course we tested it for us, but yeah, you're not sure if it works also for others.
And we had this doubt that when we brought the Appium 3.0 out, that what if it doesn't work for other people?
Yeah.
But
hopefully we don't break something.
But your expectations were not true. So the worst expectations were not true. It didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
Yes.
we got good feedback.
Great, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
But you got a reaction. It
Yeah.
wasn't like nothing.
Yeah.
Yes,
That was
we did.
my first open source project, like nobody cared. More questions? We have plenty of time. Anyone? All right. Hey, thank you, Gabriella and Christoph. Give a big hand to Gabriella and Christoph.